What is the quickest you have gone from meeting someone to having sex with them? I was at Estelle's in Chicago in 2003, and this slightly older girl was in the line for the bathroom and there were 0 dudes in line. And at that time the dude's bathroom was 1 urinal and 1 toilet with no stall, which didn't really prevent the prodigious use of cocaine in there. Anyway, knowing the situation, I told her to come in with me, and while I was pissing, I'd block the door with my foot. She was very impressed. We left the bar from there. She slept over. Hottest one night stand in my whole life. In the morning, I said to her, "So, can I have your number?" She goes, "Let's not," and kisses me hard as F and turns on her heel and flips the back of her skirt up at me on her way out my door. Never got her name. A few years ago I used to be a regular on a relationship forum. After I posted yet another sob story, a female member suggested we meet up for a drink since we lived close to each other, sort of a way to see if she can figure out what was wrong with me. A few hours later she suggests going to my place and we have sex. We end up as FWB for about a year and I actually ended up living with her for 4 months. That was a wild year. The last time we hooked up was about 3 years ago and I haven't even kissed a woman since then. Oh well. About 45 minutes. Hostel in Greece. Ran into a guy I knew who was heading down to the beach with 3 girls he had met at the bar to go skinny dipping. I offered to show them a private cove I had just discovered. The Australian girl and I had a bit of immediate attraction, so after a little while of frolicking on the beach, she and I adjourned to a towel. My friend ended up taking the other 2 back to his room, so his story is probably better than mine. I was single for a month before I met this guy on Tinder. We matched, I thought he was cute, and got lucky that he messaged me. We talked for a bit about different bands we like and concerts we've been to / going to, and I told him I was looking for a new concert buddy. He then asked me out on a date, and I agreed. Took me to a nice Cuban restaurant in Philadelphia, and then went back to his place because 1, my car was there, and 2, I really wanted to meet his cat. I love cats. We started kissing. He started feeling me up, and I said to him, "If you ask nicely, he'll take it off for you." We ended up in the bedroom. I left around 2 AM to go home. We've been together for a year now. I'm totally, madly in love with him. Often no more than a minute. I've never been the pickup type and was usually too shy to try in public. And back in the days of Craigslist casual encounters, the ratio of males to females looking for hookups there was about 400 to 1. So I came up with a system where I would post 4M4W ads per day, the maximum, looking for various scenarios, so it wasn't obvious they were all from literally the same person, but all with my details. Then, on a Friday night, I'd click renew on all my ads, so that the front page would be 90% me, and I'd get responses from women just looking to meet for sex. One of those hookups ended up repeating enough times that we got to know each other and stopped doing the casual encounters thing. We are still together 4 years later. Was at bar with my female friends and her friends. We are a few drinks in, and I ask Megan for her number, and she hands my phone to Carly and goes, "I'm too drunk to put in my number. Can you do it for me?" She does. I get back to the dorm later that night and I get a text that reads, "Come over, room 812. I go over, and to my surprise it's Carly, not Megan. We had some mind-blowing sex, and she let me see inside. I was at a Gua concert in 2006 or 2007. There were 2 opening bands and then Gua. Between the second band and Gua, I went up to the bar, ordered a PBR, and a very nice looking girl leaned over and said, "You should grab me one of those." "Make it 2, I said. She got her beer, and I was just about to turn and walk back to the floor, not giving it another thought, but she grabbed my shirt sleeve and said, "If I asked you to F me, would you call me a whore?" "Depends. Do you want me to call you a whore?" I replied. "I kinda do," she said. She asked what I was doing after the show, and I was like, I was going home, but I mean. Anyway, we hung out for the show. She rode back with me, and a buddy I was with. I think she left some of her friends there. My friend dropped her and I off. She came back to my house and we banged in my room like 7 times or something and fell asleep. The next day I woke up, but I didn't have a car at that point in my life. I was 21 and still living with my mom. It was really awkward because I think she told me her name that night, but I was drunk as s and didn't remember it. I doubt she remembered mine. We were both all kinds of fed up. We both emerged from my room and my mom was taken aback, but made small talk like, well, I hope you had fun last night. Then she took us both out for breakfast and they wound up talking about their favorite episodes of Law and Order for like half an hour. We dropped her off at her house, which was a refking hour and a half away, I shit you not, and I never saw or heard from her again. And that, my friends, was the moment I realized it was time to move the F out of my mom's house. My friend's girlfriend rented a cabin for her birthday last year. Showed up before my friend got there, so I pounded a few twisted teas down and mingled. Ended up making friends with one of her friends. Then a few hours later we were playing some drinking game, and she pulled a card that said, make out with the person to your left, as I was tiger left. We make out, and after the game make out some more. Me and my friend go outside to smoke a blunt. I come back in, and we are back to hooking up, and decide to go over to the empty cabin next door and have sex. We end up getting locked out of the cabin and stay in the empty one with no blanket or pillows, then hung out the next morning. She left and I thought I'd never see her again. Fast forward to Christmas time and we start talking again, keeping a snap streak, then started hanging out and dating this summer. Good story of how I met my GF. Also have no come to find out that she wrote the card saying, make out with the person to your left. Was going to GameStop at the mall and myself and another driver tried to get the same parking spot. I let them take the spot and I parked a few cars over. I saw the woman get out and let her know that I'll let her share the spot. We laughed and made small talk when in the mall. Apparently she just got in town that day from Switzerland for work. She wanted us to meet back up at the mall because I had somewhere to be and we had a good conversation going. Ended up taking her downtown to a couple spots and then a movie. Took her back to her car and she invited me back to her hotel. Talking lead to her dancing naked, which lead to sex. She was just here for the week and we met up again at my place and then I took her to the airport for her flight back. Was very surreal and played out like someone else's story, lol. Originally I was going to say that even the one night stand that I had was with someone I had gotten to know for a few weeks, but then I remembered this. It was maybe 3 to 4 hours. Buddy of mine was seeing someone who he wanted to break it off with, but didn't have the guts to. Problem was, she knew he wanted out, but wanted him to end things. He dragged me with him to do the deed, but chickened out. She of course was upset and silly. Naive me decided to stay with her to talk because I felt bad for her and she was asking not to be left alone. Next thing I knew, we were back at her house talking and we were going down on each other. First sexual experience. She wanted to go further, but for some reason I just didn't want that to be my first time. Felt lousy about it on the bus ride home until I realized my friend had set up me to hook up with her to make it easier for him to break things off. Haha, more than once it's been about a half hour, but just recently I had a brief 5-minute encounter with a mutual friend at a burlesque show, and our body language was just in sync from the first second. And we both really value explicit consent. She messaged me a few days later, came over to smoke, and we were going to town about a half hour later. A different time I had been talking to on Tinder, offered to bring food over to my place. She put the food on the table, we talked for a half hour. She came back from the bathroom and jumped me. I'm not what you'd call traditionally attractive. Just be a normal ass person, have interesting things to talk about, and talk about them with anyone, not just people you wanna bone. You'll get along better with some people, and if you have even a little physical compatibility, things will happen. And you have no idea who is going to be into what, so don't assume your fat/skinny/pale/short is never going to be worthwhile. It's all a state of mind. Keep yourself clean, learn to be present and truly enjoy all kinds of people's company, and learn to express admiration and affection appropriately with people who might not feel the same way or to the same degree that affords them the grace to decline. My life has been super cringy and I've got a handful of depressingly embarrassing and weird memories. I was at my pal's house playing some Terminator game for the PS2 early in the afternoon when his doorbell rings. I was 18, and it was the summer after graduation. so we had no place to be, no one else was home, and we weren't expecting anyone. We went to get the door, and it was two girls who were maybe a little older than us, that we had never seen before. They were very weird and lethargic, and wanted a glass of water. They said they were my friend's neighbor, but he had never seen them before, and we've never seen them again. Looking back now, it's likely that they were on some heavy downers and started wandering, maybe looking for an empty house to rob. One girl left, and the other wanted to hang with us. We didn't mind, because we were super bored, and since this situation was so unbelievably odd, we probably were hoping some more super weird s would happen if she hung around. Well, my friend went back to playing this awful Terminator game while this girl and I maybe spoke 3 sentences each before I'm inside of her, maybe 5 feet away from him, on the floor. I finish in maybe 2 minutes, and she gets very obviously embarrassed for me, tells me that her boyfriend was released from prison today and walked out his front door. Reposting from years ago. University life was great. Found out at a club that you could get under the DJ stage. With just enough room to kneel under the stage, I convinced a girl I met 5 minutes previously to come under with me. While sitting back pressed against the subwoofers just feet under the DJ, she proceeds to give me a hand job. She must have had a sudden realization of her antics and left before I had finished. Crawling out from under a curtain, it was clear to everyone what she had been up to. Still in my drunken horny rage, I tried my luck. I poked my head out and shouted, "Anyone else?" Amazingly, this worked. No more than 10 seconds later, a girl crawls under to join me in my newly discovered sex dungeon. Instantly begins riding me, her screams so loud, but muted by the music. Afterwards, we parted ways without ever asking for names or numbers. Could not believe my luck. 20 minutes, Belgian, was at an orienteering competition in Czech Republic. There was a camping with a small lake next to it. My friends and I wanted to party, and we joined the organized pub crawl. We just joined the group and I started talk with the Czech girl, and she was repeatedly telling she wanted to swim, although she wasn't even drunk. 10 minutes later I said, "Well, if you really want to swim, I will join you." 2 minutes later we were in the lake swimming to a raft. The girl and me were just standing on the raft when my friend started shouting "Moulin, Moulin," which means something like, "Do the French kiss." We started kissing. I took her to my tent and we banged. This all happened in 20 minutes 2 years later, end of August this year. Me and my friends went to the same orienteering competition, and I met her again. We still held contact for the 2 years. About 3 hours. For context, I always wait several months for sex, and never even kiss on the first date. Hell, I never leave a coffee shop on the first date. It was a coffee date from Tinder. The minute I walked into the coffee shop, she asked if I wanted to get out of there. We walked around for a couple hours and I wasn't ready for the date to end. I had an errand to run, but asked her to get dinner with me after. We never made it to dinner. I went straight to her place and almost immediately the clothes came off. We did it 5, maybe 6 times. Stayed up most the night talking and having sex. Fell asleep in each other's arms. Woke up and continued talking and fking all day. Went home 26 hours after the date started. We said, "I love you" on the second date, which was 72 hours long. Neither of us wanted anything serious, and I was about to move across the country when we met. But here we are, madly in love, and she's moving across the country to come live with me. Oops. At a convention with a lot of room parties, at our own room party, we were both already a little drunk. She initiated by asking me for a pickle. Literally, I was currently holding a jar of pickles because the event was for some insane reasons catered vegetarian and vegan, and we were throwing a sausage party. We advertised it as such in our room. Yep, went to a supermarket and smuggled in meat, hot dogs. So we also had pickles. And our party was quite popular with the non-vegetarians, for obvious reasons. Anyway, we started talking and flirting, and 20 minutes later she was asking her roommate if she can have her room for a while with me.